Scary Mysteries Twisted Twos, Oregon Shrieks, and Prosenjit Poddar. Tales of hauntings, murder, and scary mysteries. Every week, Twisted Twos dives into a pair of uniquely terrifying true stories that are worthy of a more in-depth look. For this week, we focus on the mysterious sounds emanating from a small Oregon suburb and the story of the deadly attraction of Prosenjit Poddar. Get ready for Scary Mysteries Twisted Twos. Number 1. Oregon Shrieks. Forest Grove is a quiet, rustic suburb that sits in the Tualatin Valley of Oregon. Once a very small farming community, it's now still a peaceful town with a population of just over 20,000. It was a place no one would pay much attention to. That is, until February of 2016, when something strange and unexpected started happening. The townsfolk, for some unknown reason, began hearing terrifying howls and shrieks in various places and at all hours of the day and night. For those who heard it, they described it as anywhere from metal against metal scraping, a steam whistle, or mechanical scream, and even a banshee-like moan. They complained the noise kept them up at night. Others said it made their pets insane. As for the origins, people weren't sure. Some said it came from the trees, then others said it was coming from the middle of the street or even from people's backyards. Despite hearing the piercing sounds, no one seemed to be able to pinpoint where exactly it was coming from. One recording of the mysterious sound was captured by resident Paula Lynch when she heard it 5 times and her neighbor heard it 3. They also reported it to officers and some initial investigations were conducted, but nothing conclusive came of those. Other residents then came forward stating their own experience with the mysterious sound too. They said it lasted anywhere from 10 seconds all the way to 7 minutes. There was initial speculation that the sound may have been coming from a leaked pipeline, but various agencies, including the Forest Grove Public Works and Gas Company and Northwest Natural, pushed back on this idea because there was no strong gas odor. The fire department also said there was no way it was a fire siren. Same thing for train whistles. Of course, it wasn't long before the idea of alien and UFOs became involved, but in the end, still no one could figure out where the sound was coming from. Major news outlets covered the story and many tried investigating possible sources. The local police department even had to announce on Facebook the mysterious noise wasn't a safety hazard to the public, just to pacify the community. But as mysteriously as it appeared, the noise also disappeared. Although nothing conclusive ever resulted from the investigation, there are interesting suggestions. One explanation for where the sound came from was from a man named Sean Gleason. He said that after hearing the recordings, he knew exactly what it was and that it came from the gas escaping from a propane pipe. Even more, it was likely used to create hash oil or honey oil, a concentrated form of THC. For a long time, Forest Grove has been a known producer of weed, and it's likely some people have took this a bit further by extracting hash oil from it. He added that normally butane is used to create hash oil in small amounts. This wasn't logical when producing larger quantities, but propane would be ideal. The problem was that using propane meant there was a danger of an explosion, not to mention getting caught. The sound, he said, came from the remaining gas escaping from the hose attached to a pipe and into a larger propane tank. Normally, the line will be disconnected for safety purposes, and this gas escaping created the shrill sound. He suggested people were likely using an RV somewhere in the town to create the hash oil. The first time the noise was reported was in the city outskirts, and it was stationary at night. Perhaps, he speculates, as soon as the reports of the sound began coming in, they decided they would be found if they remained stationary. So, they began moving and driving their RV while still producing the oil and, of course, the sound. Incidentally, prior to the sounds being reported, propane tank thefts were actually recorded by police. The unusual sound was reported as mysteriously moving from one place to another, and an RV hideout could provide an explanation to this. Sean also used the collected pins of the sound location and plotted it. Sure enough, the sound was moving in a straight line, much like a vehicle would on a freeway. It's an interesting theory and could explain the reason why the sound mysteriously appeared and also mysteriously disappeared soon after. Number 2. Prosenjit Poddar. It was at a school dance at the University of California, Berkeley's International House in 1968 when a young Indian man named Prosenjit Poddar first saw 18-year-old Tatiana Tarasoff. Tatiana was born to Russian immigrant parents, and the family moved to the United States when she was 14. Her parents were strict and protective, even prohibiting her from wearing makeup. She was allowed, however, to go out and attend dances, provided her brother dropped her off and picked her back up. At 22, Poddar, a naval architecture graduate student, was immediately smitten with the young woman. He was working as an inspector for marine structures and built various miniature model ships as a hobby. Poddar was born in India and a member of the Untouchables, or the Delete class. This group was so low on the Indian caste system, it seemed like a miracle he managed to get out of India, let alone enter Berkeley University. But when he first arrived in the States, the culture was a complete shock to him, so most of the time he retreated into his room for days on end to work on his projects. Poddar was immediately attracted to Tatiana, but he didn't speak to her until the next dance. The two then began to see each other, going out for pizza and watching movies, but Tatiana was non-committal in their relationship. But for Poddar, he felt entirely different. Because of his culture and inexperience, he assumed he and Tatiana had something serious going on. Just weeks into meeting the girl, he wrote back to his family telling them about Tatiana and her family. Over time, Tatiana's interest in Poddar waned, but Poddar's affections for her only increased. He began wanting to hang around the young girl as much as he could, showing up at her home, calling her all the time, and even standing with her while she waited for the bus. As months passed and Tarasoff grew cold, Poddar fell into a deep depression. He began skipping school and work, sometimes not even leaving his room. He became desperate and befriended Tatiana's brother. The two even became roommates at some point. On at least 2 occasions, Poddar became so agitated with Tatiana's coldness, he told co-workers he would like to blow up her home. Soon, Tatiana actually began hanging out with Poddar again out of pity. It seemed she felt bad for him, or liked the attention that he gave her. But because they were friends, she never thought he was dangerous despite showing some red flags. Eventually, a concerned friend convinced Poddar to see a psychiatrist because of his increasing issues, and he agreed. Dr. Larry Moore manned a campus mental health clinic and was considered a rising star in psychiatry. But as soon as he started spending sessions with the young man, he could tell something was seriously wrong. Several times he thought about breaching doctor-patient confidentiality because of the increasing threats Poddar made about Tatiana. In one session, the young man said he would buy a gun and murder her. Although disturbed, there was no history of violence in Poddar's life, so the doctor simply informed campus police and asked the young man to stop seeing the girl, which Poddar agreed. Just 2 months later, though, Poddar showed up at Tatiana's house, asked to speak with her, but she refused. Then he drew a pellet gun out, and that's when he shot her several times in the torso. He began walking away, and that's when she jumped up, screaming, and lunged at him. It was here Poddar pulled out a 13-inch butcher knife and stabbed her 8 times. Afterwards, he walked back inside the house and called the police. When they got there, he just told them, "Handcuff me. I killed her." For Tatiana, it was too late. She died upon arrival at the hospital. Poddar was charged with second-degree murder and sentenced to just 5 years. But during an appeal, a judge agreed to release him sooner if he would agree to be deported to India. He then moved to Calcutta, remarried, and had a child. Tatiana's parents were upset, especially with the campus doctors and Larry Moore, because they had known about the threat he had posed. Apparently, Moore was concerned enough to tell campus police, but not the cops or the family. A wrongful death suit was filed against the University of California, and the Supreme Court ruled in 1976 that therapists should be obligated to report threats when a client expresses such things to the doctor. Tatiana's death changed the rules about the responsibility of mental health professionals. Countless states have adopted these ideas, and over time, it has saved countless lives abroad and across the United States. So they are with two of the most strange and mysterious stories around. The world can be a crazy place, and Twisted Twos is sure to show you why. If you like this video, then please remember to subscribe to our channel. We have new videos coming out every Wednesday and Saturday that we know you'll want to check out. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.